Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning, Sheka. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We are so super excited to have everybody with us. So we just say happy Saturday and welcome to our Saturday PD with Sheka and Tammy. We are very excited to be with you this morning. We are really hyped because we were able to join Principal Hurt for an amazing session on map reporting and the linking study and some other really, really great information for digging into your map data. So if you didn't get to watch it today, go back and watch it. He was on LinkedIn, Shika, right?
LinkedIn.
So I'm sure you can go there and see it. But it was absolutely incredible. So we want to again just welcome everybody and say thank you for joining us this morning. We are very, very excited to be able to talk with you today and ask that if you are joining us to drop into your chat where you're joining us from, tell us who you are, and let us connect with you. So be sure to drop into the comment section your name and where you're joining us from today. For anybody who might be new to joining us, we also like to try to make sure that everybody knows why we do the work that we're doing. Shika and I were both able to turn our school's performance around. Shika was a middle school principal, and I am an elementary school principal. Good morning. We see that Rashard Davis from Las Vegas has joined us, and Mr. Hicks, good morning from Texas. We're glad to see you guys this morning. Thank y'all for joining us. As I was saying, we are turnaround principals. Shika was at a middle school. I was and am an elementary school principal. And we were able to move our school's report card levels 2 and 3 levels in a single year with moving our students' academic performance. Good morning, Rashid Noor from Seattle, Washington is with us. Thank you so much for joining us. We were able to do that work because of the amazing leadership teams that we have at our schools. Hi, CT Kirk has joined us. Good morning. We were able to work with our leadership teams, and both of us have really, really awesome leadership teams to put things into place so that we could get those situations that we were facing in our schools turned around. Um, so that's a part really of the work that we do as well, because we do work with school and district leaders. We work with leadership teams because Create and Educate actually is a consulting firm, and we do consulting work and offer literacy services as well. We invite you to visit our website so that you can see more about the work that we do. That website is createandeducate.solutions. So if you go and check the website out, you'll be able to see some of those things that we are very, very proud of with the work that we're currently doing. One of those things is the work that we're doing around SEL. I know that's pretty buzzing right now, but we really truly are proud of the work that we're doing to offer support to schools in a way that helps that not just be something that we're saying, but truly something that we're doing to support teachers as well as students. We also have a catalog where you can kind of see what this work looks like. And one of the things that we're very, very proud of from the catalog that you can see and be able to go in there and dive a little bit more into each one of these components is our 5 super strengths to a real resilient school framework. And that focuses on respect, accountability, excellence, leadership, and literacy. So if you take a look at the catalog, you can see how each of these areas are addressed by Create and Educate. You can also get more information there on how your school can become a certified Phoenix school. which we're really, really excited about as well. Finally, Sheka and I are also really proud of our work, and this is the heart of what we do. Our collaboration work really centers around the work that we're trying to do with parents, with teachers, with leaders of schools, as I said, leaders of districts, with authors and others, where we come together and try to provide a collaborative space for us to discuss the things that we're seeing and those things that are happening right now during these tumultuous times that we're facing in education. One of the things that is truly important about the work that we do, the collaborative work that we do, is we do that so that everybody can come together for um, solving problems with real solutions and not just talk about the issues that we're currently seeing. We have that podcast on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. So please feel free to join us. We are able during that time also to feature some of the amazing independent authors that we're working with. Also, if you haven't reserved a copy of our book that will be released soon, it doesn't have to be lonely at the top. You can reserve your copy of the book on the website. You can also purchase a copy of our book where we were contributing authors in Women Who Lead. So go and visit the website. You can get those things there as well. Please also follow us on all our social media outlets. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and on Spreaker. We are very excited again to have you all with us this morning. So we are going to get right on into a conversation that I think many of you will be able to join us in. Good morning, Josh. Thank you so much for joining us. We are super excited. Should you ready?
I am. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, as Tammy stated. And I'm thankful that she's able to do the intro while I feed us through to the different groups so that even more people can join us. So if you would share the feed to your page, we try to reach as many people as possible because we know that there are several educators out there who just really need some help and would like to dialogue. There's lots of things going on, as we stated in the topic. And our topic for today is it our business as usual practices in education that's preventing students from connecting back to school after the trauma experienced from the pandemic? And one of the things that we listed in our advertisement for this week was that one of the worst things that we've heard an educator say was that we don't educate victims here. And we don't think that the person meant any harm by it. I think that they are just misguided and misinformed. But if you think about where we have been in education for the past 2 years, the global pandemic has been a traumatic experience for all of us that are still working through this, and especially for students who don't have the rationing skills to be able to deal with trauma. And not just that, but when you look at studies like the ACEs study and realize how many of our students that have been victims of trauma, it's just really not a good statement to make. We really have to try to identify with students and our educators and where different people come from and their backgrounds and what they bring to our buildings and to the profession. Good morning, Mr. Burgess.
Good morning.
So we really wanted to talk around, even though what this person said sounded like not a very good statement. Is that what we're doing in education as we continue to just conduct business as normal? And I'm going to put up a graphic that shows, several districts have acknowledged where we are with education right now as far as the norm for students. So they've talked about what was the real last normal year for students. And for kindergartners through second grade, you can see that it's never. For some middle school students, like eighth graders, the last normal year was fifth grade. So when we really put that into context, what have we garnered? What have we changed to normalize things for these students? And there are several things that happen to transition students back during those years, especially those primary years, that haven't happened. But we're still moving along as if everything's normal. What have we changed with in academics with our norms reference test? I haven't heard of any changes. Have you, Tammy?
Have not.
What have we changed around third grade retention and reading scores? I haven't heard of any changes in our state. And then when you look at the social and emotional aspect of that, we're hearing a lot of terms like Tammy talked about, social and emotional learning. We got to make sure that we're addressing SEL for our staff, but we're hearing the terms, but what is actually being done? Good morning, Adrian and Raquel. Good morning, Dr. Britton. So we really want to have a conversation around this because we really want people to start thinking about, things that we really need to change. And some districts are getting it right. I'm going to move on to the next slide, where if you see down here at the bottom, another St. Louis school district announces Mental Health Day for students and staff. So we have been seeing that trend a little bit more often. And so this is a district that is being proactive and not just throwing the terms around, but actually trying to attend to the needs of students and staff members by making sure that trauma is being addressed. I went through some training this past week that was centered around the ACEs study. And what they talked about is that there's a lot of myths in our society around resilience. And I think that's where a lot of this continue as usual is coming from, that we're, the children are resilient, educators are resilient. You hear even educators say things like, that's what we do in education. We monitor and adjust. That's our mindset. That's the culture that we've created. But the pandemic and what has happened in those years being missed for students and staff members, and that didn't happen. Good morning, Dr. O'Leary.
Good morning.
We really have to make sure that we're not just brushing over this and saying, that's what we do, monitor and adjust, because you can't monitor and adjust a global pandemic. We actually have to do some things with action that are going to address it. But the myth that they talked about around resilience is when people say things like pulling yourselves up by your bootstraps, this is something that you're born with. The resiliency is how they defined it, when actually resiliency is built over time. It's something that's taught, and research has shown that really it really comes from being connected to a stable adult. And when you think about children in trauma, or children who have experienced trauma, a lot of times, sometimes they're not connected to anyone in their family that's supportive, or anyone at the school that is supportive. But if they are, those are the things that really gets them through that time. Good morning, Glenelle. And thank you. You're right. We do need to address the myths. And Josh is saying SEL needs to be done always at the campus level by administration. And I'm glad you brought up that point, Josh, because a lot of times we are thinking in context of what the teachers need to be doing, but administrators and even district level administrators need to make sure these things are happening for all staff members.
That's a part, I think, of what's happening right now, Josh. So thank you for the point, because what we're seeing is you have administrators who are really trying to be um, proactive in the area of saying, look, get out of here, go home and try to take a walk, do something just to decompress, so that you're supporting your staff. But you really have to have somebody who's looking out for the administrator too, because right now what's happening is all of the things that are coming at us that are, as Sheka kind of alluded to at the beginning of the session, business as usual. Like, we're expected to do the same exact things. We're expected for the kids to participate in the same assessments. We're expecting the children to come to school and do everything that they've always done. It doesn't allow for that space to respect the fact that things have to look a little bit differently, at least a little bit. Really, they need to look a lot differently than they have over time. But we really do have to put forth the effort to ensure that these things are taking place. And as you said, Josh, taking place daily at each
Mhm.
campus.
Exactly. And so it really needs to be real work around for students, because so many people have really talked about how different things are with students this year. And, when you look at that chart to show what their last normal year is, when you factor in the trauma behind a global pandemic, and then when you may add any other ACEs numbers to what is happening with the pandemic, we really need to do some real work around making sure that we're making sure that students have that sense of belonging back to school. And a part of that work needs to ensure that you're building trust with students, you're building relationships, that they're engaged. And morning meeting is a really good way to do that. It builds community. It helps you validate students as well as you're getting to know them. But there should be multiple ways that students feel connected to the school. And I think because we're focused on the time that's been missed, we are saying that we're, oh, SEL this, but our focus really is, oh, we're behind. We've got to get caught up. We've got to make sure the students have this. We still have to make sure that they're reaching this XYZ, when we really need to be checking into their social and emotional needs and mental health needs as well. I see that Adrian commented about the ACEs is a great study to examine the impact of the pandemic. I agree. I actually think it might should be another thing added to the list that we've all gone through. That it may be, a number on there for an ACE. Spending time reteaching structure has been difficult, but it's getting better. I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Burgess, because we've heard that from a number of teachers that, just getting the students back into a routine is where a lot of teachers are having to spend a lot of time. And sometimes that can be frustrating when you feel like you've got so much ground to cover. Kids and adults do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. That is exactly right, Josh. And the trajectory can be troubling unless some serious evaluations are made both in the home and school. That is so true. And we wanted to bring some light around just some things that some people may not be aware with, where we're trying to make sure people are informed about trauma. So, 1 in 5 children experience sexual abuse, 13% have experienced domestic violence, 27% are in homes where there is substance abuse, 28% are in homes where there's physical abuse. And then when you look at the suspension rates of students, and when we're talking about bias now around how we're sometimes that trauma manifests itself as behaviors, or what we consider to be behaviors in schools. And then when we start to respond to those behaviors, sometimes it's without knowing what the background of the student really is. No one has connected with that student. No one has figured out that these things are happening with this student, or that they have experienced this. But the bias around discipline with suspensions and expulsions is that for African American students, they make up about 18% of the preschoolers in school, but they make up 48% of suspended students. So that is a very vast difference for the number of students represented versus the number of representation they make up for the suspension rate. So we really need to do a lot of work in that area, making sure that we're getting to know students, getting to know their backgrounds, and really addressing their true needs, and not just making everything about academics. One of the other biases that we learned in the training that we had this week was that sometimes adults don't recognize the stress that students experience. And we've probably done this, if we're being honest, as adults. You think, oh, kids don't have real problems. We really have problems when you grow up to become an adult and have to start paying bills. But children really do experience stress, especially students who are living in some type of traumatic experience. The other myths that were talked about is that students are resilient and they won't remember trauma. Um, Everyone's childhood consists of joy and happiness. And sometimes, as educators, we think and we connect to the students who we feel like had the same or relates to us the most. And then that the children who do experience trauma are doomed to poor life outcomes. And that is not true as well. If the trauma is addressed, first, if it's recognized by people that are trained, and if the students receive some type of service or counseling or something, they really can learn to get through what happened or any type of trauma they've experienced, but they can learn to adjust. So thank you for your comments and joining us. And we know that we are over our time. So we're going to get out of Principal Kafele's way. Thank you, Adrian, for your comment, and Sanitra for joining us.
And as we're logging off, guys, I just want to encourage you to make sure that you apply what you've heard from Sheka today to your context, because all of the myths may not apply to your particular setting. However, we want you to be cognizant of the issues that are facing the students and the staff in your particular context, because the way that we're going to impact change is by not following a programmatic guide that says these are the steps that you have to follow, but by being true to the space that you're actually in. So pay attention to what's going on in your context and make sure that you're addressing what needs to occur there. And as Sheka said, we got to get out of here because it's 10:54, and we know we all need to join Principal Kafele. So thank y'all for joining us today.
Yes.
And we look forward to seeing you guys over there with Principal Kafele.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Hicks. We are very excited about our presentation for the National NatCom AVID Conference in Dallas. So we will tell you all about that experience as well. So thank you all so much for enjoying us, and we'll see you over on Principal Kafele's platform next. Thank you.
Guys.